1914, a game was written, and it is still being played today. The strong always win. The unprepared always pay. If you want to see the truth, don't look at the stories. Follow the money. This was not merely a war fought between trenches and artillery. It was not only bayonets and barbed wire that were used. World War I was also a financial war, a war waged in gold reserves, central banks, and the secret offices of financiers who never once set foot on the battlefield. In this war, soldiers paid the price with their blood. But bankers and governments were calculating balance sheets, and the decisions made in those years did not only determine who won or lost. They reshaped the global financial system in ways that still affect you today. If you still think war is only about politics and armies, think again. World War I proved that money is a weapon, and one of the deadliest weapons ever invented. In 1914, Europe was already a powder keg. National rivalries, colonial ambitions, and military alliances had turned the continent into a paranoia-filled chessboard. But beneath this tension lay a crucial truth that many people ignored. A war of this scale could not be sustained without vast amounts of money. And this was the most painful part. When leaders chose war, they also chose debt. Every soldier sent to the front was also an economic burden. At the beginning of the war, many governments believed it would be short. They even thought it might be over by Christmas. They assumed they could pay in gold. They believed limited borrowing would be enough. But that illusion collapsed within weeks. War was consuming money at a speed few could have imagined. In the summer of 1914, Europe's financial system was still tied to the gold standard. That meant any money printed had to be backed by real gold. The system inspired confidence, but it also restricted governments, because gold was limited. The cost of war was not. And this is where the breaking point occurred. Governments decided to suspend the rules. One by one, the great powers abandoned the gold standard. And quietly, they accepted one thing. Money was now just a promise. This became one of the most critical financial turning points in modern history, because money had left metal behind. It was now tied to printing presses, debt, and trust. And once governments experienced this power, there was no turning back. The financial war had truly begun. For Germany, the options were limited. It was isolated from the outside world, under blockade, so it had only one choice: to borrow from its own people. Massive bond campaigns were launched. Propaganda continued. People were called upon to sacrifice. "We will pay you back after victory," they said. But the reality was different. When the war was lost, those bonds became worthless. Millions of people lost their entire savings, and that anger laid the groundwork for massive upheavals yet to come. Britain, on the other hand, had a major advantage. London was the financial center of the world, but even that was not enough. So they turned their eyes to America. In 1914, the United States was a neutral country. But finance was not neutral. Giants like J.P. Morgan organized massive loans for Britain and France. Weapons, food, raw materials, all of it flowed through this system. This was more than assistance. It was power. When the war ended, America had become the world's largest creditor. The global balance of power had completely shifted. Russia could not bear the burden. A weakening economy, rising debt, and inflation that spiraled out of control drove the system to collapse. In the end, it wasn't just the economy that fell. The political structure collapsed as well. The cost of the war was staggering. The Allies spent over $140 billion. The Central Powers spent around $60 billion. This was on a scale never seen before. The result? Massive debt and the collapse of the old order. The gold standard was destroyed. Inflation spread further. Germany entered hyperinflation within a very short time. A single loaf of bread cost billions of marks. But of course not everyone was affected equally. The wealthy managed to protect themselves. Ordinary people lost everything. And the lesson was clear. In a financial war, the first to lose is always the small saver. But the most important point is this. This is not just history. The system is still with us. The 1929 crash. The 2008 crisis. Different versions of the same model. Money was printed, debt was taken. The system was kept alive. Sound familiar? Because the method never changes. The same thing is happening today. Central banks talk, and keep talking. Governments borrow, and money drifts further and further away from reality. The truth is this: money is just a tool. But when used incorrectly, it becomes the most powerful weapon. History does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. The game written in 1914 is still being played, and the outcome is always the same: the strong win, the unprepared pay. If you want to see the truth, don't look at the stories. Follow the money.